this is Christian, and today I'm looking at Psalms 119, starting at verse 15. I will study your commandments and reflect on your ways. I will delight in your decrees and not forget your word. We are still talking about studying the Bible. The dictionary defines study as to devote attention and focus on gaining knowledge on a subject. So it is where you're putting attention, your focus, what you're actually thinking about on a daily basis. When you're looking at a scripture, whatever it is that you're looking at during that day, who's talking to you? Was it written in the Old Testament? Was it written in the New Testament? Who are they talking to? Where do the people live? What was going on in the world at the time? What was going on in those people's world at the time? There's moments in the New Testament where you're going to look at Jesus where he tells a parable or he tells a story to the people around. And a lot of them have to do with like farming, and because that's something that they knew. It's how they related to life. So if we're looking at that situation in 2017, what does that say to us? What kind of job are we dealing with that this focuses on? What are the relationships of our families around us that this tells us about? What does this tell us about Jesus himself? Because regardless of whether you're looking at the Old Testament or the New Testament, it's all going to point back to Jesus. That's actually another definition of the word study. It is the person or thing that you're studying. The thing that gives you an example is what the definition of the dictionary defines it. The example of what you're supposed to do. So we're studying Jesus Christ. He's what tells us how to live. He tells us where to go. He tells us what life is supposed to look like, how we're supposed to react to situations. When we're looking at scripture, how do we see where we fall, where God falls, where Jesus falls, and what was being said? Here in this scripture, it says, I will study your commandments. So we're thinking about devoting our focus and time on trying to find out exactly what it is that he's saying. Then it says, and reflect on your ways. Taking a moment to reflect, thinking, how do I act when I get in this situation? What does happen around me when this topic comes up? Are the people in my world focusing on the same thing that the scripture says? Does my job, am I using it as an opportunity to speak the word that this scripture says? When I look at the circumstances in my life, am I actually believing the promise that this scripture says? That's giving us time in our lives to be able to reflect on exactly what his commandment says, what his ways are, what his plans are, what he wants to get done in this world. Because that's what it is at the end of the day. He's coming back for us. So how am I looking at this scripture and going, I'm going to be prepared when he comes back. And I'm also going to make sure that I'm taking other people with me. Verse 16, it says, I will delight in your decrees. There can be joy found in the scripture. There can also be rebuke where you go, ooh, I'm not doing that. There can be correction. But it's also looking at the scripture going, this was written for me. My daddy was thinking about me, and he wrote this for me. When life gets hard, this is what he says about me. When I don't actually even look like this is what he says about me. Finding delight in the fact that from the very beginning, when Adam and Eve sinned, day one, the first thing God said was, yeah, you're going to have some trouble. There's going to be some consequences for this. But I'm already making a way to get you back to me. That's a wonderful place to find some delight in. And then it says, and not forget your word. That just means when we walk away from the scripture, we never walk away from the scripture. Whatever it is you're studying, the topics you're going through, what your pastor's talking about at the time, which could be a great way to just start reading the Bible. Go back to what you heard in church on Sunday. And not forget it. Not forget it when the crazy lady at the barista, when you go get your coffee. Not forget it when your boss is acting crazy. Not forget it when your children are going nuts. Not forget it when you're just hurting inside. The promises he made, all the words that he says in here, what he wants me to do, that's how I'm planning on living my life every day. Love you.